tonight to Pisces' first Nano Marine Aquarium Setup Seminar. Basically what we're going to go over tonight is basic marine keeping. This is for people getting into the hobby, this is for people who've been in the hobby, or those people that just want to learn about the hobby. One of the nice things about this is we're going to take a very simple approach to marine keeping. As you get more involved in the hobby, you become more successful within the hobby, then you can get into different niches and different places you want to go with the hobby and make it as complex for yourself as you like. But here at Pisces, we want to keep it simple because our main goal is for you to be successful, to keep your critters alive. I think everybody wants to do that, right? So, does everybody have a handout here? Yeah? Okay, perfect. I'm just going to introduce a few people here with me tonight. I'm Norm. I work on the fish side. Lots of you know me or have seen me before. Kelly here is the fish room manager, store assistant manager. He's also the man that orders all the marine fish. So when we get to our question period, if you have any questions about livestock, please direct it towards Kelly because he orders all the livestock, and that's his husbandry skills, and that's where he comes into play. And then Mitch here, he's one of my assistants and one of our newer staff members, but he's really good at what he does, and he's also here to help you out, okay? So without further ado, we'll get started on this. Nano Marine Aquariums, what are those? A Nano Marine Aquarium basically is a small saltwater tank. For years and years and years, I've been doing this over 30 years, so everybody said, oh, you need a 200 to 300 gallon tank to be successful. Well, with today's technology, you don't. You can go small. And most of this technology is actually evolved in the East, in places like Japan, Korea, China, where there's huge population in small living spaces. This is why we've come up with small living environments. So you might have a small apartment, or you might have a family that you just want to start with a small tank and see, are we going to enjoy this hobby? So what we brought out tonight are 5 different sizes of Nano tanks, the smallest being 4 gallons, the largest is up here, and we're getting to 30 gallons, okay? So one of the things, we'll just go over the sheets here together if we could, please. Basically, the marine hobby's exploded. Why is that? A couple of reasons. But a lot of people want to bring a piece of nature into their home. They want to bring part of the ocean into their home. Maybe you've been diving in Hawaii, or you've been in the Maldives, or on a great vacation, and you're like, wow, I want a tank with some of those fish. So the Nano Aquarium now is allowing people to keep some of these fish. And people that know me and that work here knows this really grinds my gears. But another reason we're doing this, because a lot of people with the younger children, they really, really want to bring home Nemo. Okay? And Nemo's huge. I can't fight it. As hard as I try to fight it, I can't fight it. They're clownfish people. But everybody calls them Nemo, and everybody wants to have a Nemo. And they make a great starter fish for a marine tank, okay? And you don't need a huge 200 gallon tank. You can use a small tank again. And we're going to show you how to be successful with that, okay? The rules are pretty simple. Regardless of the size of the aquarium, basically what we need to do is go over, we broke it down into simple sections. And we want to have everybody stick to this plan if they're new in the hobby. And once you're successful, you can get into all sorts of different parts of the hobby. But just like when you invite too many chefs to the kitchen and dinner turns out bad, if you mix this from the internet and this from this guy and this from that guy, you're going to end up having trouble. So we offer this course to be simple and just to follow simple steps, okay? And forgive me, I just started wearing these, everybody, so I got to put them on. Aha, I can see again. Okay, so basically what we're going to talk about first is we're going to talk about filtration. Filtration is a key component to any aquarium and its success, especially saltwater. Keep in mind, saltwater or marine aquariums basically means that you're going to keep stuff from the ocean. The ocean is a big place with a lot of currents, a lot of tides, and a lot of water movement. Most of the animals we keep in captivity come from coral reefs. And for people who haven't experienced being on a coral reef, the coral reef has 3 tides a day. That means they get 3 complete water changes a day in nature. Okay, so again, one of the things I'm going to stress over and over again, this hobby is very easy. You'll hear a lot of people say, oh, it's too hard, but this hobby can get expensive sometimes. So part of what we're doing, we're also going to cover that off, or we're going to try to help you that way too. But it's not hard, it's just an investment, okay folks? And if you invest properly, you'll be successful. So we're going to start with filtration. You have three types of filtration in any aquarium. Your first type is referred to as mechanical filtration. That means any part of the filter that is going to separate waste from the water. So on these systems here, these sponges, that's mechanical filtration. That's physically removing waste from the water column. Okay, that makes sense to everybody? Okay, good. Another form of mechanical filtration, and a lot of people say you have to have this to be successful. You don't have to, but it definitely helps in your aquarium, is a protein skimmer. How does this become a mechanical filter? Well, basically what this does is it's going to create tiny air bubbles that go up the water column. They create friction, and all your waste like fatty acids, lipids, amino acids, anything microscopic will stick to these air bubbles. Then when they hit the top of the cup and the air bubbles will pop, all the waste is blown off and collected in the cup. You're physically separating waste from water. That's mechanical filtration, okay? So that's your first type of filtration. Your second type of filtration that an aquarium needs or should use is referred to chemical filtration. So chemical filtration is any part of the filtration that uses resins to purify the water. And resins, just so everybody knows, and if I say things to you that you do know, I thank you for your patience, and this is for people who don't know. So we all know the terminology. A resin is a type of chemical filtration like carbon, like charcoal, like Purigen, which is one of my favorites, that's why I brought it up. But what these do is these work through ion exchange. Okay, an ion exchange, and again I'll try to explain it so it's more simply explained. You got positive and negative ions, so as debris floats by your carbon or your Purigen or your phosphate removers, they have a negative charge, one has a positive charge, they stick. It's like when you take a balloon, rub it on your head, stick it to the wall, it sticks, and as the static wears off, it falls to the ground. Well, the same thing happens when you're utilizing resins. So what happens is, with your resins, they need to be changed frequently, because as their ion charge wears out, everything they've collected out of the water column falls back into the water. Okay? And again, we'll tie this all together at the end of the filtration portion. The last and most important part of your filtration is referred to as your biological filtration. Now, your biological filtration is the part of the filter that utilizes media that becomes real estate for your beneficial bacteria. And again, I want to keep this simple, not because I don't want to discourage you, and I don't, excuse me, want to make you all, where's my water? Don't want to overwhelm you with everything. So biological filtration basically is doing a couple of things. Number one, it's supplying a place for your bacteria to live. And there's three types of bacteria in every ecosystem. When organic waste breaks down, so organic waste consists of defecation, so when the fish or the corals, because we're doing mini reefs, any of the live animals defecate or they urinate, that takes place, that's more of organic waste. Breathing, respiration, when the fish breathe, the byproduct from drawing the oxygen out of the water is organic waste, okay? Let's say you have some algae or plants in the tank and they die or some leaves fall off. That's referred to as organic waste. So anything that's organic and starts to dissolve in the water column is organic waste. So the first stage of the breakdown is, as these items break down, they'll naturally convert into ammonia. And ammonia, it's ammonium, then ammonia, but we'll keep it more simple for you folks. So ammonia, as you know, kills everything. So what do we do with it? We scrub our toilets. We mop our floors, because it kills everything. It's a household cleaner. In nature, what happens is you have these bacteria, and what they do is they eat ammonia. That's all they do. As the ammonia is being produced, they gobble it up. But just like myself, after Christmas or Thanksgiving, I have a big dinner. I'm usually found the next day reading the newspaper, you know where? Because when you eat, you have to give off waste. Yeah, everything does. So when these bacteria eat the ammonia, the waste they produce is called nitrite. Okay? This is toxic to the living environment as well. Not as bad as ammonia, but if it's there too long, it'll kill your fish and your inverts. Nitrite are also consumed by bacteria. These bacteria, nitrobacteria, their waste becomes nitrate. Okay? Now the difference between the two strains of bacteria is the bacteria that eat ammonia and nitrite are referred to as aerobic bacteria. This means, folks, they use oxygen. Okay? That's aerobic. So they need three things to keep your water quality healthy. Number one, they need a place to live. So in your filter, you'll have different stages, and we'll turn this around here so you can see a bit better. But you'll have different columns where you can put your filter material in. So what we use here and we have great success with is the Biomax. These are sold by all different filter companies. Fluval sells them, API, every company has their own. Pisces is unique. We've done everybody else one better. We're quite proud of this product. What this is, it's wet because the bacteria is already living. So instead of waiting 3 to 4 weeks for the bacteria to cultivate, it's instant. Okay? Everybody sells these noodles, but we're the only ones that do this with living bacteria. How can we do that? Well, the company we work with that does all our biological product for us, we get this made fresh every week for us, so we don't have to worry about expiry dates. It's made by a big company and it's shipped to warehouses and things like that. They can't do this because the bacteria die in the jars if they're there too long. So we bring in like 12 or 14, whatever we need for 1 week, and it's made fresh every week for us. So what you do with these is these will basically go in your column. Just dump these in with the liquid into your column of your aquarium, right? And I'm going to do that right now because this is a hands-on setup. And we want to look after the filter first, because once the filter's all set up, then we can fill the tank with water and let the filter do the same. Just a more logical way of doing it. So I'll take the light off for now. You just dump the liquids in there. With all your beads, and that's it. And these, you only change half of them every 3 months. Why do we have to change them? Again, they're aerobic bacteria. Bacteria is using oxygen. So after a little while, what happens is they'll start to get covered with sludge and gunk and algae. These bacteria start to suffocate. That's why you want to just change half of them every 3 months. So very low cost, but very important part of the filter. Now this is where it changes. Remember, ammonia is eaten, then it's converted to nitrate. Nitrate's eaten, then it's converted to nitrate. Nitrates are consumed by groups of bacteria referred to as nitrifying bacteria. Now they're anaerobic. That means they can't have oxygen. This presents a dilemma because most aquariums are set up to supply a good, healthy source of oxygen so your animals can breathe, your fish can breathe, everybody can do well. What this product here does, Matrix, and again we have our own store brand called BioXmax. This provides real estate or homes for the anaerobic bacteria to grow. This product is porous, but the holes are so tiny, the porosity on it, oxygen can't be delivered through the material, and that's where your anaerobic bacteria start to grow, and they strip the water of nitrate. And again, this is really important in marine keeping, especially in reef tanks, because most of your invertebrates do not like nitrate. A lot of fish can tolerate higher nitrate levels without it being an issue, but for inverts, it's an issue. Okay? Do we have any questions on the components of filtration?
Does it have to be in a certain way of cycling, or does it just do it anyway as you keep on?
No, as long as you have the sites for them. And then the other thing, excuse me, is you need to make sure you get the right size media for the flow rate. And again, we have lots of staff here that can help you with those questions if you're going with bigger tanks, things of that nature. But basically, the smaller the pebble, the lower the flow rate has to be. Because if the flow rate's going too fast, it'll carry too much oxygen in the water, then it's not going to grow your anaerobic bacteria. So if you got a big tank, like a 200-300 gallon aquarium, you want to go with the bigger pebbles about this big, because the water can flow fast without carrying oxygen through the middle of the material. Okay, so any other questions on filtration? Yes. Yeah, you change half of the biomedia max every 3 months. Yeah, we carry different sacks. Okay, and we'll talk about this as we go through. We got this is a hobby like any other hobby. So we have everything you can imagine to upgrade you, to sell you more, to raise that bill when you're going through the till. And but it's understanding the principles. If you want to get a sack for it, you can, and then it's easier to take it in, take it out. And again, but I don't want it just to be like where you're feeling like you're getting hammered. I want you to understand the principles, because if you get the principles, you're going to be successful, and when you're successful, guess what happens? Well, I can't get this fish, I don't have any space left. Damn, I got to get another tank. Kelly, I need another tank. So this is why we want you to be successful, okay? So that gives you your filtration. Any other questions on filtration? Okay, perfect. Now I want to talk a little bit about the water quality. Okay, so we'll talk about substrate first. Okay, so substrate basically is what we refer to as your gravel or your sand. Now, a lot of you have heard the thing about live sand. So basically in a reef tank, some people don't keep any sand. It's a bare bottom tank. You can be successful. We recommend though that you go with a sugar size or a finer grade sand, and you want 1 to 2 inches. And it should be aragonite based for a couple of reasons. Now we choose this substrate basically because it's going to help buffer the water. It's going to keep your pH and alkalinity more stable. Okay. The other thing it's going to do, it's going to provide a living space with some beneficial denitrifying bacteria or your nitrifying bacteria again, that along with your Matrix or Bio-X-Max are going to keep your nitrate levels low, so you'll grow a certain amount of bacteria down there. But more importantly, it really opens up a lot of options how you can be entertained by your aquarium. If any of you are familiar, you can get a watchman goby with a little pistol shrimp, and they work together to build tunnels and caves and feed each other, but they need the sand. I'm sure everybody's seen the garden needles when you go into the fish side. They need that sand. So when you get the sand in there, you're going to open up the opportunity to have a lot more critters and have a lot more neat things in your aquarium. So you got to get the right type of sand. Well, you can't put in your rainbow colored epoxy coated sand. It's not going to work to buffer the water, okay? Now, whether it says it's live sand or just marine sand, it really doesn't make a difference. All sand becomes live sand eventually. When you buy sand that's called live sand, it just has the bacteria mixed into it already, and you can get it with your live sand. You can buy it in bottles. There's different ways of getting these bacteria. So basically, you want to just make sure that your substrate is aragonite based, so it buffers, keeps the calcium alkalinity levels good, and it provides housing for some of your critters. Now, water. I want to spend a bit of time on water because this is really, to me, one of the most important things about your marine aquarium. Your water quality, okay? I've already touched on it, but with an aquarium, a marine aquarium reefs, in the wild you have 3 tides a day going in and out. Now for you though that's not familiar with how that works, is as the water comes into the reef and the old water is flushed back out into the ocean, it goes deep down in the ocean, it's filtered naturally, and it comes back clean again. So these animals are used to clean water 3 times a day. Okay, so when people say, oh, salt water, or I never do water changes or whatever, you might get away with it, but it's not the best thing. The other thing to keep in mind, folks, is these animals that we keep in our marine tanks, they've evolved in these environments over literally hundreds of thousands, millions of years, depending on the species. Just to give you an example, about 9 years ago, the last big El Nino, where the water temperature in the Indian Ocean changed by 2 degrees, half the reefs were bleached out. They just died and they turned white. The 2-degree water change. My point with sharing that is these animals want consistent water quality. They can't be hopping up and down. Fresh water, no problem. They can handle it. I can take water from Lake Minnewanka and Chestermere Lake. They'll be totally different tests. But if I take water from the Indian Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Antarctic Ocean, the Red Sea, the Sea of Cortez, my point is any salt water that you take and test out of the wild is identical. The only thing that changes is the temperature and the specific gravity. But the chemical makeup of salt water is identical everywhere on this planet. That's an amazing but true fact. So that comes down to water quality. So what we recommend with your water is that you're going to be doing about a 25% water change once a week. Okay? If you're lifestyle and your enthusiasm for the hobby is more, if you're like me, and I call myself a fish head, if you're a fish head, you might do it 3-4 times a week. No more than 25% at one time, but you can do it daily if you choose. Okay? Now, when you do your water change, let's talk a little bit about the water first. What we provide in a lot of our kits here, we've pre-made up the salt for you folks, is we now carry a brand of salt called Salinity from Aqua Vitro. This is a division of Seachem. And again, just going to brag up Pisces a bit because I'm just an employee here. But one of the nice things about Pisces Pet Emporium is it's family owned and operated, and the owners of the store are retired teachers. They're huge in education. It's a big deal. And they pass that on to all the staff. So one of the things is they send us all over the place. So last year, Kelly and I got to go down to Atlanta, Georgia, do some training at the Georgia Emporium down in Atlanta. And then we went to Seachem's facility and did water chemistry training. And it was intense. Every day from 9 till 6. And I mean, it was 1 hour lunch break, but it was just pure chemistry and water quality and learning everything. It was like my head was blowing up every night. It was just insane. But what's cool about that is you learn some of the tricks that these big public aquariums do and what the importance of things are. It's not just some person that's working at a store or is on the internet saying something. This is from pros that have taught us here at Pisces how these things work. So why we like this salt is this. This salt is guaranteed each bucket to be within 5% of what ocean water is. So what your alkaline levels are, calcium, magnesium, strontium, all those things, okay? If you take brands like Instant Ocean and Reef Crystals, they're all good salts and you can have some good success with it, but according to the University of Atlanta, Georgia, they can have up to 60% difference between batches. So again, this comes down to, and we went to the actual factories and saw these things being made, so we saw firsthand how it actually works. So this is a really good salt to get into, and again, we're talking consistency because these animals depend on it. And the other nice thing is, some people say, oh, that's a little expensive. No, it's not. It actually ends up being cheaper because guess what, folks? When you do your water changes consistently once a week, even twice a week, use a good quality salt. Guess what you're not doing? You're not buying a gazillion bottles of supplements to fix everything. You aren't buying, you know what I mean? You don't have to get your calcium out of it, your strontium out of it. It's all in the salt mix. That's all you need to do. And if you do that, your tank stays healthy. If you do that, you have very little what I call nuisance algae, like your beard algae, hair algae, cyanobacteria, like the red slimy algae, which is actually a bacteria that grows on the sand. Those things all come from not doing water changes. And again, we carry 1,000 products for you folks that don't want to do water changes. We got stuff to sell you too. So it's not just, you know, doing it this way ends up being cheaper and you'll be more successful, okay? Because it is pretty cheap. And we have some, I see some familiar faces here who've dealt with a few of these things, right? So again, if you get, and it's easier, folks, to prevent problems than it is to fix it. So if you start off on the right foot, following some basic rules, you'll have less headaches down the road, okay? So when you make your salt up, you're going to get a hydrometer. And hydrometers, there's one in here I can show you. You want to? Thank you. Okay, have any of you made wine? Beer? Okay, so you know what a hydrometer is. Basically, this tells you the density of the salt in the water, the specific gravity. These type of hydrometers, just so everybody knows, you have to fill them and soak them with water or for vinegar for 30 minutes before you use them or they're not accurate. Okay, just share that with you, because if any of you guys are like me, I don't read instructions, I'm a guy. You fill this up, the hydrometer, with either vinegar or an acidic water for about 30 minutes. No, just the first time, to calibrate it. Thank you, that's a good clarification. So, but I'm a guy, so I just plug the stuff in until I figure out how it works. I don't read the directions, so I just wanted to share that with you. That it's important that you do that or you're not going to get good readings on this. So the hydrometer is going to tell you how much salt you've dissolved in your bucket of water. Basically, ideally, we want to keep the water somewhere between 1.023 to 1.024. Some people like to go up to 2.5 or 2.6. Some people like to go down to 2.2 or 2.0. Now for a reef tank, 2.3 to 2.4 is ideal. Invertebrates enjoy a higher salinity or more dense salt water, okay? But if it's too high, that also makes the aquarium very friendly for parasites, ovidium, ick, cryptocorin velvet. These are type of invertebrates too. If the salinity is low, these invertebrates don't like it. So you can keep, just doing a fish-only tank, you might want to keep your salinity down lower. But when you're doing a nano reef, 2.3, 2.4 is ideal. Okay. Something else that's going to change things up a bit on you is our altitude, where we live in Calgary. So when you use these, you got to calibrate them. You should, in other words, soak them for the 30 minutes, 20-30 minutes, rinse it out so it's clean, and then fill it just with some regular old distilled, like bottled water or our water. You should get a reading of 1.0000, meaning there's no dense, like no dissolved minerals in the water. But altitude changes how accurate these are. So when you do your first reading, if it says 1.002, just do the math and take that off of whatever you're saying, and then you'll have your accurate reading, okay? The other thing with these are they float and they go up and down. Make sure there's no air bubbles in there. If you have air bubbles, that's going to give you a false reading. Yeah, definitely. Good point too. The height that you submerge it up. So in other words, these type of hydrometers will give you a fairly good indication of what your salt levels are, but you might have discrepancies between them. So what we use here at Pisces for our tanks, and some of the hobbyists like to use as well, is called the refractometer. Cool little tool. You just put a drop of your salt water on this little lens here. You look through and it gives you the exact reading. And you can calibrate this. You see this little dial there? They give you a little screwdriver with it. So when you first set this up, you put a thing of just distilled water on there. You turn the dial so it reads 1.000, and then it's calibrated. You always have an accurate reading. So again, going back to what we talked about earlier, these animals have evolved to have a very stable environment, so you don't want it to be jumping up and down and guessing with your salinity. These are things you need to know, and salinity is very important, or the specific gravity of your aquarium. So, good water changes, good quality of salt. Make sure you're using the right tools to measure the salinity. And your temperature, basically, on average, we like to keep it around 78 Fahrenheit or 26 Celsius, okay? Topping up your aquarium, folks, does not count as a water change. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah, you'll get the algae for two reasons. One is the water quality, and two is water movement. If you don't have enough water movement in there, the cyanobacteria tends to grow. So it's the water quality. Again, you know, I didn't invent what nature created. I just pay attention to it. Well, the salt will help with the amount of water changes being consistent with those water changes. Okay, and we'll go over that a bit thorough after, because we want to have this done by 8 so everybody has a chance that whoever they want to talk to on staff, they can do that. So again, if you're doing these things, you should be able to maintain the aquarium pretty successfully. You shouldn't have to be doing a lot of adding these chemicals and this and that. If you aren't doing your water changes, and you go with the lower end salt, then yeah, you'll have to do all that other stuff, and that's what gets people turned off the hobby. We don't want to go down there. So that's your water that goes in the aquarium. So we've covered the filters, the substrate, and the water. Okay. Okay, we're going to cover off now your live rock. What is live rock? Everybody hears about live rock. Well, live rock basically is the backbone to any marine aquarium that you're going to set up as a reef tank. Live rock's basically rock that's been already, in our case, we try to stick with aquaculture or grown rocks, so we aren't robbing nature, we're just using nature to grow these rocks. And what it does is you get macro and micro algae or organisms that start to grow under rocks, and that's going to help balance out the ecosystem of your tank. And it's also called live rocks because you get all sorts of fun and exciting hitchhikers. You might get some crabs or feather dusters or starfish. You never know what you're going to get, so it's like that box of chocolate with Forrest Gump. You don't know what you're going to get. So it's pretty neat stuff. But basically you want to run about 1 pound per gallon, okay? And when your live rock is healthy and doing well, you're not going to have the cyanobacteria in the bottom, because these other organisms that are living in the rock are going to outcompete that bacteria for the same food. Okay, it's your competition. But a healthy live rock, it'll turn purple on you. So a lot of people will help their live rock along with purple up, or we again have our store brand coming out here in the next week or two. Same product, we just get our label put on it, and it's a bit better price. But what this is basically, is this going to encourage your coralline algae to outcompete all the nuisance algae, and it'll make all your live rock real nice purple and pink color. But that coralline algae is referred to as a calcified algae, so it's using calcium. It's using different things like your calcium in the water, alkalinity, things of this nature, because it's not a soft algae. So this is what this is doing, it's just boosting up here. So again, if you're doing regular water changes, you won't use nearly as much of this as if you don't do water changes, because all that's in your salt mix, okay? Now, when you get your live rock, we do our best at Pisces, along with the vendors we deal with. Again, we prefer to, and most of the time we do bring in what's called an aquacultured rock. So basically that means they've taken rock out to the ocean, they sat them in an area of the reef, and then after all the animals have migrated and started to grow in those rocks, they go back and collect them and bring them in for sales, as opposed to going out just blowing up reefs to take the rocks. Okay? And you'll read a lot of that the more you get into this hobby. Kelly does an outstanding job of making sure that the animals, the rocks, the fish he brings in, they're all ethically collected. Okay, so again, you might sometimes say, hey, that fish is a bit more cheaper over here. But you know when you get them from Cali or from Pisces, you're getting fish that are ethically collected. There's no cyanide, there's no concussion bottling, there's no raping the wild. It's all done. And our live rock, like I say, technically aquaculture means reproduced, but when we refer to as aquaculture, they've just taken rocks out, seeded them and brought them back in, okay, and it's for the hobby. But you have to check your live rock, because along with all the cool stuff, you get some bad stuff like aptasia. Who's here ever had aptasia? A few of you? Okay, these are little tiny clear anemones, and they sting everything and they multiply like crazy, and you go to stab it and it turns into 2 of them. Then you kill the 2 and it turns into 8. They're your worst nightmare. You have to actually feed them individually with a poison to kill them. So when you see aptasias on, like if you buy a live rock or you get a coral, or maybe you might get an SPS or an LPS or a clam or something, you might see a few little, don't think, oh, those are cute little anemones, get rid of them right away, okay? And same thing too, if you get some live rock and you're going to put it away, look at it closely, because you might get a couple of other critters that some people love but can be a nuisance. Like sometimes you'll get your mantis shrimp in. Yeah, and those will start to take all your fish away. You'll go, where'd my fish go at night? See, I see a few people mumbling that have been long-time Pisces customers that have smaller nano tanks, and they've gone through this. Okay, so it's called live rock for a reason. We do our best to cure it, but these critters are good at hiding. Sometimes you might go 6, 8, 9 months not even knowing you have one until you finally figure out, that's why all my fish are disappearing. Okay? So again, 1 pound per gallon. So if you have a 4-gallon tank, you only need about 4 pounds, 16 pounds, etc. I'm going to start to get you to fill this. While I'm talking here, I'm going to get Mitch to fill this. I just brought this. We brought this out just to show you a good way of filling your tank with the sand. A lot of people complain when they put the sand in their tank, it gets really dirty. Remember, this is made out of calcium-based minerals, this sand. So it's going to make the water cloudy. So what we recommend doing is just taking a small plate or a bowl, filling that up and slowly, gently. Now Mitch is a bit of a, you know, hardy guy, so he might be a little too rough. But slowly fill it up this way, then remove the plate and keep the tank much cleaner, okay? Real easy to do, but it just keeps it much cleaner. Okay, we're going to talk a bit about lighting now. Lighting is really important if you want a successful reef aquarium. If you just want a fish tank, you want to collect 2-3 Nemos for the kids and have maybe a door for dad, the lighting's just to light up the tank so you can see it. But when you get into your corals, your anemones, some of your invertebrates, lighting becomes really important because most of these animals actually have relationships with microalgae that grow inside of them, and they need those lights to grow those algae. So your anemones, your corals, some of the polyps, they need that full spectrum lighting. And there's different forms of lighting now. There's LED lights, there's metal halide, compact fluorescence, high output fluorescence. There's all different types now on the marketplace. But basically, you want to have a Kelvin spectrum. So you're going to be, the higher the Kelvin, more blue the light. So you'll always read about or hear about actinic bulbs. That's just a blue bulb. It's a real high Kelvin bulb. Like I think they're what, over 20,000 Kelvin? Right. So ideally, what you want is a mixture of bulbs, maybe some 10,000 Kelvin, some 7,500 Kelvin, and your actinics. And that'll give you a good blend of what these animals are getting in nature. Remember, a lot of these animals that we're sticking into an aquarium this big and we're successful with, in nature, they might be from different depths of the ocean, so they're going to get different penetration of light. So this is why we want a good spectrum or variety of light in the tank. And all our kits here come with enough light to be successful with any of the corals you want to grow. And again, like any other hobby, if you want to supercharge it, we got all your lights on steroids. If you want to get crazy, we got those too. Okay, water flow, water circulation. This is huge, folks. One of the things about any aquarium, especially reef tanks, you need lots of water movement, lots of water flow. Lots of people are deceived by, oh, my filter says it does 300 gallons per hour. Well, 300 gallons per hour might sound like a lot, but it's not. That's just a trickle. Okay, some of these places where these animals come from, the water's ripping. Like you and I can't even stand. We'd be washed away. And these fish and corals are great time, right? So with any of these systems, you want to make sure you have really good water flow. And one of the things that it prevents again is your cyanobacteria, your red algae. So long as you should have lots of water flow, and if possible, set your water flow up to have different currents or different directions. Right? So there's different, Power has different water propelling systems we carry that you can program, or you can put them on a timer, or just set them up in different spots in the tank. Don't have everything pointing in the same direction. I don't know if any of you have ever driven down through the number 3 highway going into BC from Lethbridge. And all the trees are growing this way because the wind's always blowing that way. Right, so again, you want that in most of your reefs in nature, you have in and out tides, so they're getting different currents throughout the day. A lot of these corals, your polyps, your anemones, things like that. These are animals that have evolved to have that type of stimulation, to be juking and jiving and moving. So you want to get that in your aquarium. And again, our staff here can show you lots of different options for whatever you want to do. All our kits come with built-in, we've upgraded them all. So, and I'll do this right now just to show you how easy it is. But they come with just an exhaust tube. But what we provide for you instead in each kit. And we have one on the other side operating that you're more than welcome to go see after we're done here. But these are little units that you just replace it with. It just snaps in that easy. And the water that returns to the tank, just the movement of the water is going to cause this return to spin around. So it's going to give you natural currents in the tank. Okay, real cool little product, and it works awesome. So again, this is, see how nice and clean that sand staying? How nice and clear that water is? Nice little trick. So again, these are the things we want to share with you folks. Now we're going to talk a little bit about your setup schedule, and then we'll go over a couple of other things that we have that are a surprise for everybody tonight. So we're going to assume you're setting up one of these tanks or you got one that you got at home, one of the bargain finder or Kijiji, but it's your first nano tank. So basically, we want, again, keep this simple. So step one basically is day one. What Mitch is doing now. Put your substrate in, get your filter material in the filters, get your heater put in the back, and your heater fits in the back column as well. I didn't show you that before, but your heater slides right in there. Fill it with water, let it run for a day. Make sure your salt's at 1.02423, the salinity's right. Make sure the temperature's right. That only takes 1 day. Whether you let the tank run for 1 day or you let it run for 1 year, it's just a tank. It's just water. Remember that at the very beginning we talked about filtration? Remember we talked about how ammonia is created? Through fish defecation, urination, respiration. Nothing happens until you put something living in there, folks. You have to have something living in there to change the water chemistry. So whether you let it sit for a day, or you let it sit for a month, or 2 months, nothing's happening. The only reason we suggest 1 day is because a real good friend of mine, his name's Murphy. You might have heard of him, Murphy's Law. Well, when I invite him, he always shows up. So if I take fish home the same day, I'm going to get the tank that has a leak in it. I'm going to get the heater that's not working. So that's why we say give it 1 day, make sure all the gears work, make sure you get the salt levels right, and then you're good to go. So day 2 or step 2, you just put in your live rock. You put in a pound per gallon. And you don't have to do it all at once. If you go with the bigger tank, you're a little bit more ambitious and you want to do a 60 or 100 gallon at first. There's no rules that say you have to put 100 pounds of live rock in at once. But eventually you want to work your way up to that. It could be over 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, okay? So by the time we get our live rock in there. Once we introduce the live rock's going to be full of all sorts of organisms, right? Your different crabs, your different algae, your different bacteria. A lot of that is going to die just from shock and moving from the ocean to the wholesalers, to Calgary, for our store, to your home. And again, it's full disclosure. Airlines don't ship full boxes of live rock with water in it. It's too expensive, it's too heavy. So there's always a certain amount of live rock that dies off because it's shipped dry. Like they just put wet newspaper or wet cloth over it to keep the humidity. Most of that creatures and organisms will survive the trip, but you'll have a certain amount of death. So when you put in your live rock, all of a sudden, guess what's happening? You're getting that organic waste we were talking about. That's going to create ammonia, and that's going to help you start to cycle your tank. We got the biological media in place for both aerobic and anaerobic bacteria. So everything's going to start to happen right away. So 2-3 days after you set up the tank, your salinity level's good, your temperature's good, all that good stuff's working out. You can throw in your, start putting some live rock, okay? After the live rock's in there, 2, 3, 4 days, we usually say up to about a week. You want to test the water. If your ammonium nitrate levels are staying at 0 or relatively close to 0, then you can start introducing some of your cleaning crew. Okay, that refers to your little critters like your hermit crabs, your sand stars, your snails, cleaner ships. Basically, these are the critters that are going to maintain the tank and clean up all the leftover food, break down a lot of the waste, maintain the rocks. So again, it's easier to keep it clean and prevent dirtiness than it is to clean it up after the fact. So we want to just start out with a few cleaning crew guys, throw them in there, get them going, okay? Wait like another 5 to 7 days, and if the water tests good after that, there's no ammonia, no nitrates, then we can start adding a few fish and corals. And pretty much by week 3, week 4, your tank should be set up, running, and you should have the critters you want in there. And if you follow these simple rules, water changes, filtration, the things we talked about tonight, you're going to have a lot of fun with it and you'll be successful. Now also, when I say that, I say that with some, again, a disclaimer, full disclosure. You will lose it. You will encounter death in your aquarium. It's natural. These are living creatures. We don't know how they are when they're caught. We don't know the whole history of the animal behind it. So you are going to lose the odd animal or the odd fish. But overall, if you follow these rules, you're going to be successful and you're going to do extremely well. And from my experience, again, done this over 30 years, the people we have the most, or the customers or the hobbyists that are the most successful, are the ones that have never kept a tank before, because they listen to what they're being suggested. They aren't getting confused by all their friends and all the stuff. Because again, there's 10 great pizzas out there, but if you mix some of the pizzas, they don't taste good. So we just want to keep it simple on that. Now this part here is kind of cool. Any other questions, anybody? Yes, sir.
Do you still have to use one of the salt water testers if you use the ready salt?
Yeah, the hydrometer, yes you do. Yeah. The difference between this is that you get more salt. Like some people look at the buckets, and math-wise this is pretty comparable. You can get a big bucket of like Instant Ocean, I think is $69, and it does 140 gallons or 150 gallons. This is $99, but it's doing 230 gallons. So it's pretty comparable, just a better quality job. The other neat thing about salinity is, and again, our kits, this is what we give you in our kits. This is salinity for these 4 kits. We're giving you the salinity with it because we want you to start off with the best. It gets hot when you mix it with water, okay? Be prepared for that. The lower end salts, they mix moisture. Like they mix water with the salt to give it that bulk, to give it that weight. That's why it doesn't get hot when you mix it. This is less than 3% moisture in there. It's pretty much pure, all your 7 major salts, all your trace elements, your minerals, your supplements. It gets hot. It's a real cool effect. See, Kelly and I, we actually tried shampooing with it, and that's how hot it gets, okay? All right. Any other questions on what we've gone over with the... You bet ya. You can add another one whenever you want. No, you get what's called cured. We have one bin that we say uncured. That hasn't been cleaned or done anything yet. Then we have 2 bins of cured rock. That rock's ready to go. It's all safe. It's been cleaned. There's no waste left on it. It's ready for your tank. Okay. While he's getting that set up there, so we want you to see the head working as well, because it's really cool. But see how nice and clean that gravel stayed, and then he can just remove this after, and there's no mess. And it's amazing because we had a gentleman in this week, and he wanted to bring all the sand back because it made his tank real cloudy. Yes, sir.
When you're mixing up the salt, do you mix it with regular tap water, or do you have to use distilled water?
Okay, good question. Good question. You know what? Calgary water is pretty decent water. Like we actually have really good water here. Again, if you want to be a purist and an extreme hobbyist, you're going to start out with RO water, and then you'll mix it with RO right, or some kind of buffer that's going to maintain the levels of the different minerals, like your alkalinity and your hardness and your pH and all that. Just use straight RO water. It's not going to hold any of those values. So you have to then add RO right is what the trade name is, and then you can mix it with your salt. And the benefit to that, some people say, is there's less phosphates in the water, so you have less issues with some of your algae. But in all honesty, if you do your water changes, you don't overfeed your tank, and you use good filter media, like we talked about, then you're not going to have those issues. We just use tap water here, always have, and been very successful. You've seen our displays.
Right. Actually, one more question.
Yeah, you bet.
Is it okay if you've got a water softener?
No, don't use a water softener.
So just
just regular waters, but not water softener. That's already been manipulated by different types of salts, and it'll mess everything up. So just regular tap water or RO water, or what a lot of people do, and I think even Kelly's done this a couple of times. You can take RO water, distilled water, and mix it 50-50 with tap water, just to cut down on some of the excess minerals in our water supply in Calgary, because we do have very hard water with lots of calciums and iron and things like that. So you can mix it 50-50 to dilute it. Okay, so good question, that one. Any other questions?
I apologize if this was already covered, but when you have when you're adding in fish and your cleaning crew, do you need to follow by having so many, like, depending on how many gallons you have, that you can only have so many fish? Or so?
Okay, good question. Very good question. I'm going to give my answer, and then I'll have Kelly give his answer as well, because again, Kelly's a livestock manager, and he's done this forever, and he's very good at his information. I look at it from this standpoint. You have the aquarium hobbyist approach, and you have the aquaculture industry approach. Why is it you can go into a salmon farm or a trout farm or some of these places, and you can literally walk on the fish across their aquariums because there's so many fish in that tank. That's how thick they are. Well, it's because they're doing water changes all day long, folks. It's new water coming through, just like in nature. Any river, any stream, any ocean, it's new water 24/7. It's not recycled, it's not filtered. So if you're going to do the hobbyist thing and just do your water change once a week or once every 2 weeks or once a month, then the general rule of thumb is 1 inch of animal per every gallon of water. But if you're like me and you don't like rules, then you can have as much fish as you want, but you might be doing water changes like I do. Like I got a 230 gallon tank at home, and I do a 60 gallon water change 5 times a week. Okay.
And just a comment, I found that I've had better success using tap water and keeping all my levels stable by using tap water than using the RO.
Well, like I said, when you use RO water, you have to stabilize the RO water, and then you can use it. Calgary's water is good.
Yeah, you know what?
It's really good water, so I just use, you know.
Okay.
But again, there's different ways of doing this hobby. We want to keep it simple so everybody can be successful, and then you can get as crazy as you want. You can, you know, tweak your aquarium however you like, and that's why we're here, to help you with any direction you want to go. But the purpose of this is to allow people to get into the hobby, have some success, gain that confidence, and as you can see, it's not taking up a ton of space, and it's not a major league investment. Any other questions for us? Yes.
My living rock was doing okay until a couple weeks ago when I bought a dragon wrasse and realized to dig in the sand, and the whole thing, my whole tank gets filled up with sand, and when it settles in on my living rock, and now my living rock looks like it's been dusted by sand. Do I have to put that on?
You don't need to, but if it bothers you, because it's your tank, you're looking at it,
It's not perfect.
No, but your coralline algae, once they start to really take over, they'll actually use some of that, because that's aragonite at the bottom, and they'll use that as a calcium source.
Oh, so it's okay that
Yeah, but if it bothers you or you're worried about it, just go in with the turkey baster and blow it back off.
Oh yeah, and I have it.
Right, that's all you need to do.
That goes back to the tank.
Yeah,
If you got proper movement.
exactly, good point. Like you've got your,
I don't have enough.
yeah, you gotta have lots in there twirling around.
I have to be careful with that though, because I have a hurricane coral, and it can't it's not supposed to be in the flow. So I have it so that it's going towards my candy cane coral and my other corals, but not out of my hurricane.
Yeah, well, they'll compete, they'll sting each other and kill each other too. So there's again, when we get into those specifics, you have to tweak things. Like for example, seahorses don't like a ton of circulation, but they're not found in reefs. They're found in where there's grass and there's low water and a lot of kelps. It's not ripping tides, and so there's exceptions to the rules. But in general, you want lots of water movement in there. And did you want to add anything on the question about like the fish per gallon type thing?
I'm probably one of the worst ones to talk to you about stocking a tank, because I always tend to overstock it. When you look at freshwater tanks, there's a general rule, 1 square inch of fish per gallon. That's not necessarily the case for a saltwater tank. And you know, when you do a lot of information or look at a lot of information on the internet, they'll say maybe it's a 1 square inch of fish for every 5 gallons. That's not really true either. It's really going to depend on the size of the tank and the amount of live rock you have in there. A lot of things that people don't understand is that when you actually have your fish tank with your live rock in there, you displace a lot of your water. So for example, if you have a 30-gallon aquarium and 30 pounds of live rock, you're not going to have 30 gallons of water, obviously, because that rock is going to displace a lot of that. So there's a lot of consideration into your tank, you know, but when you're setting it up, you know, as far as, you know, how much water you're going to be left with, and then that kind of dictates as far as your fish and your cleanup crew. One thing I find that a lot of people really lack on is the cleanup crew. We can't really stress the importance of the cleanup crew. Fresh water, you can get in there with a gravel siphon, you can go through, you can pull out your decorations, get in there and siphon all the gravel. Fortunately with salt water, when you have your corals and your rocks set up, you can't do that. So it's very important to have your cleanup crew to be in there to actually clean up for you. And we'll talk about cleanup crew as far as snails, hermit crabs, shrimp, different types of starfish. There's a ton of stuff out there that a lot of people don't really take advantage of. And another thing is they don't necessarily put enough in there. So if you have a 30-gallon aquarium, you put in 5 little hermit crabs, that's not going to really do anything. That's not going to benefit you at all. Chances are is they're just going to basically get lost in the system. So what we like to promote is actually doing, you know, certain types of mixture of hermits, a mixture of snail, a mixture of different things that will eat different things and do different things in your tank, and have higher numbers because, you know, just by putting a few in there, you're not going to have that same success. So what we also recommend is that when you come talk to us, obviously you let us know, you know, the size of your tank, how much rock you have, you know, is your corals in there. We can refer to as reef safe and not reef safe as far as inverts go and fish, because that's something that a lot of people will ask about. Because obviously there are some fish out there that will nip on corals, that will pick on small invertebrates. There are invertebrates that will feed on corals that can possibly kill fish. So we can definitely go through that with you a little bit more in depth when you actually come and talk to us. But there's a lot more to it than just saying, okay, well here's my tank, it's 30 gallons, you know, and I can put in 10 fish or 20 inverts. So there's a little bit more to it than that. So we always recommend that you just come down and talk to us first before going that route. All right.
Thank you.
Well, does that which rule apply when it comes to can you pretty much size the limit with those?
So you're asking for a slot on the tank.
Well, looking at your cleanup crew there.
Yeah, like,
You guys should know what
yeah, that's another thing that was a very good point that you made. Is that a lot of times people think that when they're putting their invertebrates or the cleanup crew in the aquarium, that they're taking away from the amount of fish looking at. That's not true. So you start looking at bio load and having fish in aquariums. Obviously, they're using up oxygen in the aquarium a lot differently.
Okay.
Types of waste. So it's not necessarily. I mean, you can actually add a lot more inverts to the tank without actually increasing the bio load of the tank. So you really don't steal away the maximum number of fish you have in the aquarium, or even the size of the fish by having this. Now, you know, there are some inverts like big silicon numbers and things like that where, you know, it is a little bit different. But generally speaking, with the snails, hermit crabs, and that kind of thing, they will not really impact the amount of fish you have in the aquarium. So it's not really jeopardizing anything by having more.
So for us newbies with our fish tanks that overfeed and get our nitrate really high, now we're trying to solve that problem. So what was that caused from overfeeding? So let's come back on the feeding. Now, is it possible to know if you're getting enough?
It is. It is. I mean,
However, you know how much.
well, that's where it gets tricky because it depends on the bio load of the tank and how many fish you have in the tank. But marine fish, you know, it is really recommended with marine fish to actually, if possible, eating several times a day in smaller amounts rather than just once a day. By doing that, you can sort of monitor how much food is actually being eaten and how much isn't. We're talking about the saltwater tank and all that flow. You can imagine how much of that food actually just basically gets lost. It gets either stuck in the back of the filter, or it gets stuck in the live rock, or it's not accessible for the fish. So that's why if you feed more times in smaller amounts, it's actually a lot easier to control how much food is not being eaten or how much food is actually going to be wasted. So that's what we do recommend that. If not, then there's other ways going about it. Trying to get them on dry foods. There's lots of great dry food, flake and pellet out there where you can actually set up an auto feeder. So even if you're not able to feed them by yourself or feed yourself, you can have an auto feeder for you. So, but yeah, they do require, a lot of times you come to a fish store and you see a green fish and looking at skinny. It's basically because they do require that 2 or 3 times a day.
Because mine, I know which I was overfeeding it because I have the red on my sand now. So come back on my feeding, but now when I feed them, especially on they just dive for it. I have the yellowtail blue damsels, and some of those will even headbutt the other fish and take them. So
Yeah, we can talk about that later. There's other ways to get rid of cyanobacteria. It's not necessarily just because of overfeeding. There's a lot of factors to it, so we can actually talk about that.
All right, perfect. Well, we're just past our 8 o'clock limit that we wanted to reach. So a couple of things we'll go over quickly here, folks. So number one, I want to thank you all for coming out and making tonight a success for us at Pisces. We always like to see a good turnout when we do these type of things. It just encourages us to do more of it. And please, if you have any suggestions, any improvements that you think might be made, anything that you think we missed that you'd like to be covered, don't be shy, let us know. We want your input. That's the only way we get better at doing these things, okay? Now, what we've done for this seminar is we've done up, and this pricing will be good till the end of March, because we don't want to make you feel like you're pressured into anything, but we do want to thank you for coming out. So what Pisces has done is we put together 5 different nano tank specials, and all these tanks come basically complete minus your livestock, but they're coming with your like this one here, for example. You're going to save $110 off of everything you're getting there for $549, and it's coming with your tank, your stand, your light, your filter, your supplements, your water. Like, you can always add more as a hobby, but everything you need to get going is in there. Okay, so all these tanks go across that way. And the other thing we're offering, and this is where Mitchell, you can come see Mitch if you're interested in this, is we're starting up Pisces Marine Club. We're really excited about this. Again, we want to thank you for your patronage. So we've come up with the Marine Club basically because what it's going to do is it's going to give you, I believe it's every, we're doing it weekly, no?
It'll be weekly and monthly.
Yeah, so there'll be weekly and monthly sales that'll be exclusive to you being in the Pisces Marine Club. If you're not in the Marine Club, you're not going to get these deals. And again, it's our way of thanking you for coming in to listen to us and taking some of our suggestions to heart. So when you purchase one of these setups, and again, these prices are good till the end of March, you get in the club for free. Now, a lot of you already have tanks. We don't want to leave you out of this. So what we're doing with that, and this is where Mitch will come in handy, we'll be charging a $25 sign-up fee for the club, and then you get a $20 store credit right away that you can use on anything. And that's just to get your commitment so we can build this club up. And then, so you're basically paying $5 to be part of the club. And that's good for 1 year. You're in the club for 1 year. And for example, this is the first savings. So this one's going to give you, you can get 10% off your live rock purchase. You can get 15% off your cleaning crew that Kelly was talking about with your crabs and your thing. It'll give you 15% off your corals. 10% off your coralline algae supplements, 25% off of your Reef FX, which is the immunity system for your livestock, 20% off your Matrix or BioX Max. This is just for this startup, but you'll receive different things like this all the time in your email when you join up for the Pisces Marine Club. So if that's something that interests you, again, it comes free with any of these kits, or you can sign up for the club, and it's $25, and you get a $20 credit immediately that you can use on whatever you want. And other than that, if you have any other questions, folks, our staff will be wandering around. Don't be shy. Come up and ask us. If you need help with any of these kits, again, come up and ask us. We got a lot of these ready to roll, and again, great deals. We've upgraded them. They pretty much will make you successful with everything. And other than that, I just want to thank everybody again.